Well, good evening, everyone. In this video, I'll summarize the main points of this chapter. Then I'll dive deeper into how missions affected both the local people and missionaries. And finally, I'll compare and reflect on what I've learned. So let's dive in. Chapter 39. First thing I want to start off is talking about the rise of Protestant missions. Evangelism on a global scale. The 19th and 20th century, Protestant Christians began sending missions all over the world. And this was the first time Christians actually sought to spread the faith on a larger scale. William Carey, who was the father of modern missions, helped start this movement. See, his work in India is set the example for future missionaries that actually believed that they were doing what the Great Commission says in Matthew 28 and 19, where Jesus tells his disciples they're going to make followers over all the nations. Now let's talk about missions were more than preaching. Protestant missionaries, they didn't just preach. They set up schools, hospitals, and other social services, helping to improve education and healthcare in areas that they went to. They brought new ideas and technology, like the printing press, which made books and Bibles more accessible. Some of their efforts led to positive change, like helping people learn to read and advance medical care, especially in undeveloped areas. But this did not come without controversy and criticism. Despite their good intentions, missionaries were sometimes accused of pushing Western cultures into their values, into their culture. This created complicated relationships between faith and cultural identity. Missionaries are often believed that converting people to Christianity meant changing their way of life, which could lead to the loss of local traditions and languages. And in some cases, missionaries were seen as a part of a larger colonial effort contributing to the domination of Western powers over other nations. Now, it also has critical engagement. The fine line between saving souls and imposing your own beliefs. One of the big questions this chapter raises is whether these missionaries were truly just trying to share their faith or whether they are also a part of a larger plan to control the people they were trying to convert. Many missionaries believe that converting people to Christianity will make the world more civilized. But this often came with forcing Western ideas on non-Western cultures, which created a lot of intentions and a lot of tension. Which makes you ask the question, was it right to assume that their culture was better than the culture they were trying to convert? Let's talk about the positive impacts and the cultural impacts. While missionaries did bring improvement in education and medicine, also contributed to the loss of many local traditions and practices. For example, while teaching people to read and write was a good thing, they often insisted that people read the Bible in European languages rather than their own. And this can make people feel like their own language and cultures were less important, which raises another moral question. Can doing some good things like providing schools and hospitals excuse the harm caused by erasing parts of somebody else's culture? So let's get into intentions versus actual incomes. The difference between good intentions and real impact. Many missionaries had good intentions. They believed they were helping people share the gospel and improving their living conditions. However, sometimes their actions had unintended consequences. For example, their efforts to change people's beliefs and customs could lead to resentment or loss of cultural heritage. And it's very important to consider how even well-meaning actions can sometimes have a negative effect. Just because someone means well doesn't mean they always make things better. The role of reason versus faith. Compare and contrast. Connection to an enlightenment ideas. During the Enlightenment, European thinkers began to emphasize reason and science over faith, which led to decline in religious authority in Europe. And this period made people skeptical of religious institutions. Protestant missions were in some ways response to their secularism. As Europe became more skeptical of religion, Christians felt an even greater need to spread the faith to the other parts of the world. Now let's talk about the opposing views. Balancing good intentions and harmful impact. One of the most thought-provoking ideas in this chapter is the tension between missionaries' good intentions and the harm that their action caused sometimes. On one hand, they truly believed they were helping people by sharing their faith and improving living conditions. On the other hand, they often failed to recognize the value of cultures that they were trying to change. And this makes me wonder, can we truly help others without imposing our own beliefs and our own values on them? So, Junior, what did we learn today? This chapter reminds me that even well-meaning efforts to help others can have unintended consequences. As Christians today, we need to think carefully about how we engage with other cultures and how we can share our faith in a way that respects their traditions and their beliefs. We should strive to share the love of Christ in a way that honors both the gospel and dignity of every person. Now, as we move forward, it's important to learn from the experiences and find a way to share our faith that respects and honors the people we're trying to reach. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and I hope this presentation encouraged you to think critically about the legacy of Christian missions and how we can continue sharing the gospel in a way that honors both faith and culture. May God add a blessing to the reading and hearing and doers of his word. Have a great night.